Nam Shrishtam Manamapi Shuchiputram Atra Surupam Rupam Tasyakacha Muripurim Maturim Goshtvatim Radha Kundam Girivaram Aho Radhika Madhvasam Prapto Yasya Pratyeta Kripaya Sri Guru Tam Natusmi Gurave Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadali Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Ananda Leela Maya Vigrahaya Prema Badya Vyacchave Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Sham Sundar Skanda Shekhar Smaraha Smurali Manohara Radhikar Skamama Kripanite Sapriya Charna Kinkarim Kuru Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I offer my heart like flowers thousands and thousands of times at the lotus feet of my Holy Master, my supremely worshipable spiritual Guru, Asmaddeya Paramaradhatama Guru Pada Padma, Nitlila Parisht Om Vishnu Pada, Ashtotarasta Sri Rupanugacharya Varya Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Gosvami Maharaja. Secondly, I offer my pranam millions of times at the lotus feet of my Shiksha Guru, Nityalila Pavishtam Vishnupad Ashtotara Satasi Srimad Gour Govinda Goswami Maharaj, to Srila Prabhupada, and to all of our Sri Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Parampara. And finally, I offer my pranam to all Ananya Titandipadgan, Sannyasis, Brahmacharis, Madhavanand Prabhu, and all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, my pranam to Vachakalpatarus. More and more people are coming to this festival to honor Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj. I cannot say for sure why each person has come, but I know that I came because of the love of Madhavananda Prabhu. Prabhu bole aji more Safala Sannyas Aji Madhavendra More Hoila Prakash. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met with Srila Paramananda Puri, the godbrother of his guru, at that time he said, "Oh, today just seeing you, my life is fortunate. My sannyas is fortunate. All my practices are successful. Today, Aji Madhavendra Mori Hoila Prakash, Madhavendra Puri is manifest before me." So because Paramananda Puri was the Sat Shishya, bona fide disciple of Madhavendra Puri, meeting him gives the feeling, it gives the spurti, the inner realization of the presence of Madhavendra Puri. So when a few days ago I was invited to come here by Madhavananda Prabhu, I could not resist his pulling on my heartstrings to bring me here. And I did not want to miss this chance to see him, because when I see him, then Aji Goro Govinda Mori Hoila Prakash. On that day I see my dear brother, that time, oh, it is the feeling comes of those days when we were living together with Srila, the lotus feet of Srila Govinda Maharaj at his bhajan kutir in Bhubaneswara. So this is why the attendance is increasing. I think it is because of the love of Madhavananda Prabhu. Today is the divine disappearance of Srila Govinda Gosvami. Na karma bandhanam janma vaishnavanam na vidyate. Unlike the ordinary souls who by the force of their karma and due to being bound by that karma, they take birth in various positions in this world and then they taste the fruit of their karma and then they're forced to go to the next life. Vaishnavanam na vidyate. Vaishnavas are not like that. They have no karma, they have no bandhana, but rather by swaira charitra, by their own supremely independent nature, they appear in this world. Just as Sri Krishna is aprakat, unmanifest, but from time to time he becomes manifest and then unmanifest again. So in the same way, Sadguru is an eternal reality. And for some time, he becomes manifest before the senses of the persons of this world. And then after some time, he becomes unmanifest. But we should know, he is always here with us. His mercy is always available. So today we honor the disappearance of Srila Govinda Maharaj. I first had the fortune to meet with him in 1991 in England. And at that time I attended his lecture. And I sat down and I was listening. And quite frankly, I could not understand a word he was saying. I could not recognize him at all. Vaishnava Charini Nari Devara Shakati Kemane Chinibo Mui Adamaupamati. It is said that even the demigods, the great demigods, they cannot recognize a pure devotee. So what possibility is there for me, Adam Alpamati, a very fallen person with very limited the human intelligence. So at that time, I could not recognize him. A few years later, he came back. And I went to his class again. I didn't give up. And I think that that must have been by his glance or by his blessing. That by the glance of a pure Vaishnava, auspiciousness begins to rise up in our life. Yadritchaya kenapi parama swatantra bhagavat bhakta tat kripa jat Sraddha Mangaludayena. Srila Govinda Maharaj used to always quote this line from Srila Jiva Goswami's Bhakti Sandarbha. The pure devotee is not under the control of karma. Even he's not necessarily under the control of Krishna. He controls Krishna. Ama bhakta preme bandhyachi hridaya bitari. Srila Govinda Maharaj used to say, the pure devotee has bound up Krishna in his heart with the ropes of love. So when that Parama Swatantra, supremely independent Bhagavad Bhakta is wandering through this world, then by his mercy he awakens faith in the holy name in Krishna and begins to reveal himself also. Then Manglu Dayena, auspiciousness awakens in our life. So that second time, when I saw him, it was a completely different experience. The first time, it was just my prapanchik buddhi, seeing five elements everywhere. And seeing a pure Vaishnava, like an ordinary person. But the next time, by his mercy, I could realize, here is some extraordinary personality. He was speaking on Chaitanya Charamrita, Madhya-lila, chapter 19, Mahaprabhu's teachings to Srila Rupa Goswami. And he began to explain the definitions of prema, of love. And then higher than love, sneha. And more than this, man, pranaya, rag, anurag, mahabhav, ruddhabhav, adiruddhabhav. So many levels of the love of Srimati Radhika, giving their definitions and examples one by one. Quite frankly, I had never heard anything like it in my life. It was something really amazing. Not the kind of discussion I had ever heard before. So after the class, I came to Srila Govinda Maharaj and I said, I have a question. You have spoken about all these different moods, sweet moods and levels of love. But I have heard that if I just go on the street every day and distribute books, and then if I do that to the end of my life and I just collapse and die on the street distributing books, I can automatically go to Goloka Vrindavan. So, what is the necessity of all of these things? And then he spoke in it will not have the same effect if someone else will speak it. But when Srila Govinda Maharaj spoke, his words are not the Nasik Vayu. Srila Govinda Maharaj used to say two things, Vaikuntha Vayu and Nasik Vayu. When a pure devotee speaks, the sound is coming actually from the spiritual world. It is the air of the spiritual world. But if a person doesn't have the Bhagavad Anubhav, realization of Krishna, then when he speaks, this is called Nasik Vayu. The air that went in his nose is now coming from the mouth. So Srila Govinda Maharaj, at once he said to me, Ai Baba, you speak about the books, but what does it say inside the books? What is written there? Sakale jagati more kori vidhi bhakti brajabhava paiti nahi shakti. The whole world, Krishna is saying, worships me according to Vaidhi Bhakti. But this alone is not enough to awaken the moods of Braja. Therefore, one must hear. I remember once we were on tour with Srila Govinda Maharaj and we came to Paris, the ISKCON temple in Paris. You were there? I think, were you there that time?
1993,
about
94 years.
94, maybe 94, yeah. So, at that time, Srila Govinda Maharaj gave a beautiful class and the subject was Sat Sampradaya. What is the true, authentic Sampradaya? And he explained, Tam Bhakti Yoga Paribhavita Ritsaroja Asesu Texita Patana Nunata Pungsam Yad Yadyo Ta Uragaya Vibhavayanti Tadvapu Pranayase Sadanu Grahaya. If the heart becomes saturated with the sentiments of bhakti, how? By hearing. Srutakshitapat. This path is the path of Sruta, hearing, and by hearing one can see. Sruta ikshitapat. The path of seeing through the ears. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur used to say this, Raja pasyati karnabhyam. A king sees through the ears. It means that though the king is in one place, on his throne, but through his spies and his intelligence everywhere, they come and they tell him what's going on in the whole world. So this example, that the king sees through the ears, is a metaphorical. It's a figure of speech. But in Shuddha Vaishnavism, hearing produces darshan there and then. Sadhyo ridya vrud teta kritibisu srushivis tatshanat, there and then. If the sound of the Shabda Brahma, spiritual sound coming from the lips of the pure Vaishnava, pierces the material covering of the ear, then there is the Jatiti Pratita, immediate spurti or realization of the form of Krishna, then his qualities, associates and pastimes. So Srila Govinda Maharaj was describing the Sat Sampradaya is that parampara wherein the darshan of Sri Krishna is transferred from generation to generation through the medium of Shabda Brahma. After his class, we got up and Maharaj was going outside and he was going to his car. And as usual, we were all surrounding him and trying to ask questions and hear a little bit more nectar before he will leave that place. So then, the devotee was asking, Maharaj, can we get the Shabda Brahma from video or from recording? He said, no. It only comes from the heart of live sadhu sangha. Live sadhu sangha. Dui bayoridiyerak shalyandka, dui bhagavata sange karna sakshatka. by the mercy of Gour Nitai, just as pots and pans in a room in the dark, you cannot distinguish what is what. But when the light comes on, then we can say this is a pot, this is a pan. So similarly, by the mercy of Gour Nitai, one is able to recognize two types of Bhagavat. Eka Bhagavata Bara Bhakti Rasa Shastra, Ara Bhagavata Shastra Bhakti Rasa Patra. One type of Bhagavat is the devotee Bhagavat. And he's full of rasa. And the other one is the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Dui Bhagavata Dwara Diya Bhakti Ras Tahara Hridaya Tara Prema Hoyavash. By the action of two, both the book Bhagavat and the Vaishnava Bhagavat together, they instill the mellows of Bhakti Rasa into the heart, and then Krishna comes under the control of that devotee's love. So then, Srila Govinda Maharaj, just as he was getting in the car, he turned around. That day he said that the treasure of the Sat Sampradaya is Radha Dasyam, the service of Srimati Radhika. That was the conclusion, that the Sat Sampradaya gives the service of Srimati Radhika. Then just when he was getting in the car, he turned around, he said, I am hearing from Prabhupada, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, every day. And what he's telling me to tell you, I am just telling you that. And everyone could feel it. Everyone could feel that. What Srila Prabhupada wanted to teach, though he had become aprakat, unmanifest, through the Prakat Mahanta Guru, he was sharing that with everyone. So beautiful. I had the good fortune by his blessing afterwards to come to stay with Srila Govinda Maharaj, with Madhavananda Prabhu and so many other Vaishnavas I'm recognizing here. In Bhubaneswar, Srila Govinda Maharaj said, I have opened a crying school here. Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti Yoga Dan, Bhakti Krishna Nama Smarna Krandam. Bhakti Yoga is a great treasure. What is that treasure? To chant the name of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And weep, cry with a melted heart. If a person is free from 10 types of aparad, then niraparad nam laile pai premagam. This prem will appear and tears will flow from the eyes. So I don't want to take up too much time. There are so many elevated speakers here. Just to conclude, I want to say that along with Madhavananda, Srila Govinda Maharaj engaged me in the Shastra Seva, in transcribing his lectures and publishing his books. So we were just about to, we had laid out and published, we had not published yet, but we had laid out and was just about ready to publish one book, The Embankment of Separation. Do you know that book? The Embankment of Separation. Yes. So everything was ready to print except for the introduction. And I had written an introduction to the book. And on the manuscript of that introduction, I gave it to Srila Govinda Maharaj in his grass hut. And he took it, he said, okay, I'll read it and you come back later. Come back later. So then I was gone for the whole day. Then in the evening time, it was quite late in the evening, and he sent one brahmachari. Oh, tell him to come back. So late in the evening, I came in his room, and I said, how is this introduction? Is it suitable for your book? He said, yes, you can publish it. And he gave me the manuscript. But then, unsolicited, he began to speak. Really, so much from his heart. He said, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he became disgusted. He said, this material world is not a fit place for a gentleman. And so he left prematurely. He said, so I will also leave. And then he paused for a moment. He said, but I am not independent. First I have to ask Gopal. It was very strange for me to hear such words. But I remember, I'm repeating his exact words to you, exactly as he said them. So then the next day, he went to Gadaigiri, to the village where his deity of Gopal served since childhood was, and he prayed to Gopal. And shortly afterwards, then he came here to Mayapur. And perhaps you have heard his wonderful pastimes here. On the last day, on this very day, on the day of the appearance of his most beloved grandfather Guru, Prabhupada Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, on this day, he was in his room and speaking to some senior disciples of Srila Prabhupada about the pastimes of Krishna, how Krishna had gone to Mathura, and how Srimati Radhika was weeping and fainting again and again in separation. All the Sakhis of Radhika were crying, thinking that she's about to pass away. But somehow or other, at that moment, Shri Krishna returned, and Srila Govinda Maharaj was describing when Krishna returned. And Srimati Radhika, her Sakhi said, "Oh, Krishna has come." And Radhika opened her eyes, and Radha and Krishna looked into the eyes of each other. The eyes of Radhika fell into the eyes of Krishna. The eyes of Krishna were reflected into the eyes of Radhika. And just as he was speaking in this way, Srila Govinda Maharaj became choked with ecstasy. He was overwhelmed with all the sattvic bhavs, ecstatic symptoms. And he called, "Gopal!" You know that Yogamaya Purnamasi Devi has said one beautiful verse. Krishna panga tarangita dumanita sambeda veni krite Radha yasmita chandrika surdini puroni piyamritam antas tosa tushara samplava plavavya lida tapochchaya kranta sapta jaganti sampratibhayam sarvuddha madhyasmahe. The meaning is this, that see Krishna's loving glance is dark. There's a dark charm light emanating from Shri Krishna's loving glance, and there are waves of beauty in it. And so it's like the Ganges. Radhaya Smita Chandrika. And when Radhika feels the glance of Shri Krishna, then she smiles. And when she smiles, the moonbeams, the chandrikas of her smile emanate in waves of beauty, and it's flowing. Krishna's is dark like Jamuna, and Radhika's smile is light like the Ganga. So Ganga and Jamuna are meeting. Antas Tosha Tusharya. And at that time, all the devotees, Lalita Vishaka and other gopis who are there, and the Vaishnavas who are hearing the katar of the meeting of Radha Krishna, they feel such satisfaction, and their satisfaction is flowing like a river. Krishna's glance you can see, Radhika's smile you can see, but the satisfaction in the heart of the devotees you cannot see. It's invisible, like Saraswati, as the Saraswati is invisible at the Trisangam. But if anyone will take a bath at the Triveni, where the meeting of the Ganga, Jamuna and Saraswati takes place, what will happen to them? They find themselves transported beyond all Mahalok, Janalok, Taplok, beyond Vaikuntha, beyond Dwarka, beyond Mathura. They find themselves in the Nikunj of Radha Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. So in the same way, at that very moment, Srila Govinda Maharaj speaking this katha, he was seeing the Jamuna of Sri Krishna's glance, the Ganges of Radhika's smile, and the bathing in the meeting of their satisfaction of all the devotees on Krishna's return. And at once, Kranta Sapta Jaganti, he went beyond the 7 planetary systems and arrived in the company of Radha Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. This was his disappearance pastime on this very day. Srila Govinda Gosvami Maharaja ki jai. Maharaj always used to say, a sadhu never speaks theoretically. So every day before class he used to sing the introduction to the Oriya Bhagavat. Paramananda he madhava, parunga luchi makaranda. And there in that song it is said, at the last moment of my life, I will call the name of Radha Krishna and go and serve them. And so the sadhu never speaks theoretically. What he said every day before class, in the last moment, he did that very thing. Therefore, there is no doubt Srila Govinda Maharaj is the topmost sadhu. Param Puja Pad Srila Gour Govinda Gosvami Maharaja ki